Yo, welcome back to the Swarm Explained series. I know it's been a minute, but I'm about to just try to attack this as best as I can. So this episode starts off with this guy in his truck gargling alcohol and counting money, and he's outside a strip club. And he goes in and orders a breakfast special or whatever with a coffee, and notices Dre on the stripper pole or whatever dancing. So he goes over to sit down and, starts watching her dance or whatever. And she gets closer and she's like, "Oh, where's your friend?" And he's like, "What?" And she's like, "Your friend, the one that always wears the Titan hat?" And he's like, "I don't got a lot of friends." And she's like, "Reggie." And he's like, "Oh, Tonk? I don't know where that nigga at. He had to run to Philly. He's probably on the road somewhere. But I could take real good care of you, little mama. What's your name?" And as he says this, they bring out his food. And Dre just stares at him like, "Really, nigga?" and snatches his food. So Dre goes to the locker room and she's at her locker and one of the strippers comes up to her like, "Hey, new girl, you know the point of dancing or whatever the hell you were doing out there is to make money, right?" And another one back is like, "Leave her alone." And she's like, "Nah, I'm saying, ain't nobody trying to see all that sad ass dancing to one of those songs. This ain't one of them white ass strip clubs." And Dre's like, "It's not just one of her most profound songs." And she's like, "Profound? This bitch said profound. It's a song about a dead baby. Our job is to make meats hard, not shrivel up and fall the fuck off." And then she throws the money at her and says, "Woman, oh woman, you can make more money at McDonald's. And they gonna fire your ass if niggas keep walking out here scratching their heads instead of holding their nuts." And Dre just picks up her money and, keeps doing what she's doing. The white girl in the back walks up like, "I really liked your dancing," and just walks off. Then it cuts to outside and we see this. Then it cuts back to Dre going back to her motel, and the camera pans around and pretty much shows like how like messed up the room is, and they show like she still has a picture of Nigel and her and Marissa together. But then it cuts to her phone and shows that she's on Twitter looking at Reggie's Twitter page or whatever, which is the same guy from the last episode that was like, "Oh, Marissa got what she deserved or whatever when she died and shit like that." And that Nigel could die tomorrow and he wouldn't miss one song. And she puts her phone down or whatever and is on her laptop and she's on Microsoft Word pretty much researching this man, like keeping up all types of little facts and shit about it so she could find this nigga. She got his job shit, she found his nickname, his location area. The strip club she works at is like where he like goes to or whatever from time to time. Then she's interrupted by Haley knocking at her motel door like, "Oh, Carmen?" And she turns around like, "What the fuck?" And she's like, "Oh, I could see your shadow or whatever." And she's like, "Did you follow me?" And she's like, "No, not really. I saw your car, and I remember that one time you told somebody you stayed near the strip club." So then Dre gets up to open the door, and she's like, "What do you want?" And the girl, Haley, is like, "Oh, can I use the bathroom? Please, I'm about to explode out here." And Dre lets her in. But when she goes in, she's peeing or whatever. She's like, "Fuck, do you have a tampon? It looks like an El Chapo crime scene in here." And Dre's like, "I have napkins." But Haley finishes up in the bathroom, gets up and washes her hands. And she turns around like, "Sorry you saw that earlier." And Dre's like, "Saw what?" And she's like, "My dipshit boyfriend." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, it's okay. I have a lot of shit I gotta get back to. I gotta finish." And Haley cuts her off like, "Hey, do you want to go get some food?" And Dre's like, "No, I have a lot to finish." Then Haley's like, "My treat." And Dre like looks at a plate of chicken bones that's in her room. And she like, "Damn, maybe I should eat," type shit. And then it goes to the title card. And then it cuts to them at the diner. And Haley's like, "The other girls at the strip club are scared of you, right? You have like the most confidence in there. They see the potential in you or whatever. I could teach you some pole work if you like." And she's like, "I make the most money at the club for a reason." And Dre's like, nah, this job is only temporary. And then she's like, okay, manifest that shit. Get the life you deserve. And then Haley responds to a text message like this.
Oh, so now you give a shit? All of a sudden you care now? You didn't seem to care when you left my ass. Get off my line.
And after a couple seconds of silence, she also says this.
Okay, look, not to be weird, but I feel like really connected to you. Like, I understand what it feels like to not be accepted. To live out of this suitcase and not have any friends. I mean, I ran away from my last relationship because he couldn't accept me being black. You're black? My dad's half. Half what? Black? Yeah. That's why my stage name's Halsey. You do know who Halsey is, right? Have you been living under a rock? She's like the best singer out.
I find it funny that even the guy in the back, when she was like, oh yeah, he couldn't accept me being black. Like, even the guy in the back, like, looked over, like, what the fuck? And then she, also discovers that Dre is a killer bee here. And then she gets another text message from her boyfriend, basically like, oh yeah, he wants his food now or whatever. And she like, oh, so we gonna have to leave in a minute. And Dre's just gargling her drink like, fuck. Then it cuts to Dre and Haley in the car outside the guy's house. And she's like, hey, do you want to come in? And Dre's like, no. And it's a little awkward silence. And then she's like, he's going to think I've been fucking around if you don't come in. But if you do, he'll know I'm straight. And Dre's like, I'm good. And then there's another silence. And Haley's like, I'll literally pay you to come in. I know you need the cash. Just take it. It's fine. And Dre takes the money. And then it cuts to them going in the house or whatever. And the guy looks over and he's like, who's that? And she like, oh, this is my girl Carmen. Please be hospitable or whatever. And he's like, yeah, where's my food? And Dre's like, oh, I need, you got a bathroom? And she goes in the bathroom, checks Twitter or whatever, and sees that Nigel is having twins. But immediately after seeing this, Haley and her boyfriend like gets into an argument over the food. He like, oh, this is too much fucking bread in this bread bowl. I can't even have that much gluten. I'm gonna feel sick. But it's just the whole argument is just dumb as shit. But like Dre opens the door and sees this and like sneaks out and leaves Haley there. And then we see this.
Thought I'd show you how to achieve that bomb winged eyeliner look with a hint of smoky eye. And remember, the key to this look is less is more. Now, first step, I'm gonna start in the cut crease, right? Just a little bit right there. Hey! How the fuck did you get in here? Well, I didn't have your number. So I just told the guy at the front that we're best friends and he let me in. I had to fuck Sir so that he'd take a nap, but I packed everything I could and I stole his car. Can you use your shower?
Then it cuts to Haley on the bed with a whole like bonnet and shit on her head, like a head wrap, and she's drinking or whatever. And then she's like, "Oh, you want some?" And Dre's once again like, "I don't drink." And then she just puts the drink down and starts eating pizza and like checks Instagram. And I guess she sees her boyfriend posting on Instagram or whatever. And she's like, look at this bitch posting on Insta. He thinks I'm going to get jealous. Please. I'm never going back to his abusive ass. We're so done. And then she's like, hey, do you need a roommate? And then it literally like cuts to like her sleep on the bed. And Dre's just looking at her like, this nigga. Then Dre checks her Instagram and sees like people raving or whatever about Naja having twins. Then Dre gets up and leaves, and we cut to Haley's boyfriend on the toilet, and we hear like a can rattling, and you start to see like smoke and shit spraying up in the bathroom. And he gets up and starts coughing or whatever. And he's like, "What the fuck?" And when he opens the door, well, the curtains, it's Dre out there with a weight and like a gas mask, and she smacks him in the head, and kills him. That's our first kill of this episode. Then it cuts again to her dragging his body like through the house and outside in the yard and shit. And after Dre finally gets him outside, she's like, breathing and like laughing or whatever, because she like, finally I got this nigga out here. And we hear the door slam or whatever, and Dre turns around and she sees Haley looking at his body like, oh my god. And like Dre does like this little funny stance and like kind of like carefully walks around him as she's coming around his body. And Haley starts like kicking his body or whatever. She's like, you bitch, or whatever. You know, she's mad at him. And it's like, Dad, this nigga's dead now. And then like they both like start kicking him. And then she's like, after they're done kicking him, she's like, oh, we have a shovel. Then it cuts to Dre like digging up a hole in the back, while Haley's just like, you know, going through the motions of like the first kill, even though she didn't do shit. But then she's like, yeah, we got so much shit. We got like a Glock or whatever. We got his Glock. We got a sandwich. We got rope and all that shit. This and the third. And once Dre hears sandwiches or whatever, she comes over and stops shoveling. But then also Haley's like, oh yeah, and I have his Glock or whatever. And she's like, can I see? And she's like, oh yeah, of course you can see or whatever. We're gonna be like the Black Thelma and Louise. And Dre just drops down and starts looking through the shit. But Haley's like, oh yeah, we could flee the country if we even have to. We could go to Canada or whatever. And she's like, oh my god, I can't stop tingling. This shit is amazing. And she's like, how are you feeling? Are you alright? And then she's like, I feel like Halsey. I feel like I could do anything. And then she was like, oh yeah, how much money do you have? And like, Dre just stands up and shoots her in the face. And then she like picks up the sandwich and starts eating or whatever. And then she like pulls up her phone and is like, hey Siri, who is Halsey? Then it cuts back to the strip club and we see Dre dancing again, but this time it's like less awkward and you see like more people throwing money or whatever. And it cuts back to the locker room and the same person who like, you know, was saying she needed to do better, she comes up to her and she's like, hey, you want some more money tonight? While we see like Dre counting money. And Dre's like, you know what, I'm down. And they like, alright, you gonna be our designated driver for the night. Then it cuts to inside Dre's car with like, you know, the stripper she's supposed to be the designated driver for. And the main one is like, alright, here we go. So if anybody wants to fuck, it's a stack of dick. And we won't be giving them our numbers. And no matter what, we won't be having their babies. And Dre's like, who are these people? And the main one is like, I don't know, Mocha found them on Backpage. And Mocha says, oh, they're college baseball players. And they're like, ooh, it sounds like the money should be good. And Dre's like, how long we gonna be there for? And the main one is like, as long as they got money to fuck. And they start laughing a little bit. Then one is like, wait, anybody heard what happened to Haley? Is it true the cops are looking for her? And the other one is like, I swear it's always some drama with her. And Dre's like, mm-hmm. And the other one is like, yeah, but it's not like her to leave money on the table. And the other one is like, yeah, it is. Besides, her boyfriend runs her little pasty ass. And the main one's like, that's just men in general. I ain't never met a man with a purpose. And then the one in the front is like, yeah, 'cause their purpose is to pay our bills. And the one in the back is like, damn, who wronged you bitches? And the one in the front is like, yeah, okay, Carmen, what do you think? Men, good, trash, what? And she says this.
Carmen, men, good, trash, what?
Well, I think that sex and the whole masculine form is a waste. There are plenty of ways to derive pleasure, and we should be exploring that more. A woman needs no one.
Well, damn, y'all. A woman needs no one. Where the fuck you hear that at? Bitch, you ended that shit with the magical. Fucking weird, Carmen.
Then it cuts to the party or event they were supposed to go to, and Dre's just sitting down while like the rest of the stripper friends are walking around, you know, entertaining these white naked niggas. And there's like niggas doing coke. One of the strippers getting ate out. It's just crazy. And like Dre just gets up and, you know, goes to a room by herself and starts eating snacks and shit in there. But while she's in there eating snacks, a white guy comes in and he starts like questioning her, like, why aren't you out there with your friends? And she's like, I like to be alone and things like this. And he says, do you do bad things like your friends? And she just looks at him like, nigga, what? And he says, nah, you seem nice. And he comes over and sits down and says this.
I'm not bad like those guys. They're crazy, bro. I've got a girlfriend. I'm just trying to be good. jerk off to you, I'd pay you.
How much?
100. Okay, yeah. Here. I just do it now. Okay.
And Dre's like, I'm still gonna eat. And he's like, what? But like really starts to, beat his meat right there beside her, just looking at her eating her snacks and whacking his meat. And like he falls out or whatever, and then the main stripper is like behind him in the doorway, and she's like, I knew your little ass was a freak, little weirdo, and then walks off. And it cuts back to Carmen's car, or Dre. It cuts back to the car, and one of the strippers is like singing this song she made up.
Drink when he wasn't looking. He didn't know what was going on. I had my finger in his booty hole. He didn't even know. Carmen, play some music. Get this party started.
After they play some music, this moment is very short-lived because like something happens to the car, like where it just breaks down and shit. And the main stripper's like, oh no, get me the fuck out this car. And as they get out the car, the main one is like, Carmen, out of all the shit I thought your ass would be able to drive. And then this happens.
Celine, was she driving and shit? Bullshit. You good? I'm good. There's no nail in it. The tire popped because his car is janky as fuck. Okay, well, any of y'all know how to change a flat tire? Nigga, this is not the 1800s. Of course I do. I did too. You got a spare in the trunk. She should. No. Damn, you fucking Looney Tune. You got a dead body in there or something? Yeah. Fuck this. I'm gonna call an Uber. Bitch, it's 4 a.m. and we in the middle of the goddamn booty. Oh, shit. Do your thing. We gonna die. Do the other thing. Oh, hold on.
Y'all ladies need some help?
Hey, Big Daddy. Our car broke down. Can you give us a ride?
Alright.
Wait, hold up. Don't I know you from the club?
Oh, shit! Lure ladies.
Yeah, that's us.
Alright. I'm Reggie. Folks call me Tonk. What y'all doing out here? It's dangerous. Good thing I got off my shift. Who car this is?
Mine is my car.
That boys opens up about 2 hours, but I can't just leave out there. I mean, I could change the whole thing out easy back in my place.
Really, you do? That's so sweet. I mean, we can pay you.
No. My mama raised me right. No, ma'am.
And then Dre's like, okay, let's go back to his place. And it cuts to them going back to his place, of course, him towing their car there. And they walk in his house, and he's like, just don't pay attention to that laundry right there or whatever. And they just sit down in the living room. And he's like, anybody want some coffee? And the main one is like, do you got elderflower and lemonade? And he's looking like, the fuck? And he says, no, I do not. But I do have some orange drink and tequila if that's the vibes you're looking for. And they're like, yeah. And one of them's like, I'll take a shot if you will. And he's like, I am. And he's like, well, I'm about to go get the cups and the drinks, and I'll be right back. And Dre stops him and says this.
Who's your favorite artist?
I don't know. That new Cody Blaze album's alright, right? I'm feeling that Toronto sound for sure.
Cody Blaze has a total of 1 Grammy. Naja has 26. Do you think Cody Blaze is better than Naja?
I don't know.
Then why did you say she could die? What? You said she could die tomorrow and you wouldn't miss one song. Laughing emoji.
I don't remember saying all that.
But you did.
Okay. I'm gonna get that tequila and orange drink.
Nigga, can you please shut the fuck up? You are ruining the vibe up in here. And Oh, you gotta bring it on DVD.
Then Dre comes outside and, sees Reggie working on the car, and he's like, oh, hey, the tire's all done. I was just fixing up a couple other few things for you. And there's just like this weird silence. And he's like, where you from? And she's like, Houston. He's like, oh, okay, I fuck with Houston. I know a couple folks down there or whatever. Y'all cool as fuck. I like Houstonians. Y'all niggas nice. And then Dre's like, why don't you ask me my name? And he's like, okay, what's your name? And she's like, Dre. My sister is Marissa Jackson. Sound familiar to you? And he's like, no. She out here with you too? And Dre's like, she's dead. And he's like, oh, well, I'm all finished out here, so I'm just gonna go back inside. And we start to hear bees as he's walking off, and she's looking at him. And it cuts to her in the car, and the rest of the other strippers getting in the car. And Dre looks like she's like really thinking on something like really hard or whatever, as they're waiting for like the last stripper to get in the car. And then like she just says, oh, I gotta pee. And she like gets out the car and like runs in the building or whatever, runs it back into the house. And when she comes back in the house, she kind of like creeps in and she's like looking around for the guy, but then she also like finds a frying pan. And then we see this. And after Dre like rushes out or whatever, we see the stripper standing there like contemplate what the fuck just happened or whatever and like what they're gonna do. And the main was like, well, we could just call the cops or whatever. He tried to rape her. And the one that shot him was like, they won't believe us. And they're like, I think we should run for it. And they like, I do too or whatever. And they like, go get Carmen, we about to leave. And as they're running out or whatever, they hear the car already starting like peeling off. And the main stripper is like, what the fuck? I know this bitch ain't just leave. And she goes out there and sure enough, they see that she left. And the main one is just like, Carmen! Like screaming her name, which it's not her name, her name is Dre. But she was just going by Carmen. It's kind of fucked up, but smart. Then it cuts to Dre in her car, chilling by like the highway or whatever on her phone, and she gets a text from Marissa saying, I miss you too, and we're just getting started. And that's how the episode ends. I think this episode was just crazy as hell, like overall. Like, we got 2 kills this episode, even though like the last one we got like 2 deaths. And I just want to say, my bad. I definitely was late as hell on this. I've been procrastinating like shit. It's just been a lot going on, but I want to try to bump out this whole season, as fast as I can. But I appreciate you all for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video, Peace out.